Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Langer. Alex Langer. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm going to show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Langer.
Why, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You thought it would be Darla, be honest. You thought it was her, but it's me. You're going to have to deal with me, the actual host of the show, and the guy that's been doing it for almost as long as Darla. Listen, thanks for being with us today. And seriously, we have a tremendous guest today with us, and his name is Fred Roumbanis. He was born and raised in California and spent his youth on the California Delta and fished nearby reservoirs. As kids, he and his brother learned to fish mostly from watching the TV angler heroes on Bass/ESPN tournament shows, including Denny Brower, Rick Clunn, and all the greats. They loved to watch Bill Dance, Hank Parker, Fish Fishburne, and every show that had anything to do with fishing. At an early age, Fred's grandpa gave him his first rod and reel, a Zebco 33 Spin-Cast Combo. And here's an interesting fact. Fred's future father-in-law was an engineer at Zebco at that time, and he actually designed the 33 reel.
That is really cool.
Is that cool?
Very cool.
I probably will forget to ask Fred about that. But, if I had one question to ask him, I would say, what was that like to meet the guy that designed the Zebco 33 reel? I mean...
And then he becomes family.
That's right. 33 is what we all learn to fish on.
That's awesome.
So let me give you some of Fred's stats before I just blabber on here. He has fished over 100 tournaments with Bassmaster since 1999, and he's been fishing the Elite Series since 2006. He's got 2 first-place finishes and 3 appearances in the Bassmaster Classic. His earnings are almost $1 million. That's amazing. And he has also fished the FLW, where he had 1 first-place finish in 43 tournaments, and he's fished them since 2001. This past summer, he won Bass Pro Shop's PAA tournament on Lake Neely Henry in Alabama. But Fred is also a lure designer, and he created a line of Rumba lures. Rumba lures. Can you say that 3 times?
Rumba lures.
Rumba lures. What'd you catch him on? I caught him on a Rumba lure. So that's it, folks. And then we have all of our usual suspects. We've got Larry Whiteley. We've got good old what's his name and good old what's his name, and we got Ron Linder. So stay tuned. Don't miss all of what their names. All right, hang in there. We'll be right back.
At highway speeds, the average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. That's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. Ron Linder here for LinderMedias.com, the world's most interesting fishing website. That's LinderMedia.com, the world's most interesting fishing website. Well, this weekend we just finished the final walleye championship at the Quad Cities on the Mississippi River. This was the FLW. We finished filming the FLW Walleye Championship. It was won by young Danny Plotz, who, and by the way, what I want to mention, it was the final of the FLW sponsored shows. There are no more. So big-time competitive walleye fishing is no more. With the finish of these tournaments, it's the end of what we knew to be the big money. In the years past, FLW had individual championship payouts as high as $300,000. This year, it was $85,000. It was the final one of the lot. We've had other ones at 100, 125, depending on. But it has been going through a real change. The high-level payout walleye competitive fishing world has been going through a real tough time. Right now, I would have to say it's an IV drip life support, if that's where it's at. There's a few going on here and there. There's an AIM circuit. There's a MWC, which is a partners tournament, which gets pretty good at it's always been considered a secondary league or like a minor league tournament circuit. And they get some pretty good representation. They are partner-type tournaments, and they've had good reception. A lot of people, but the big-time stuff this was the final one, and we filmed it. It will be on television here probably in about 2 weeks. It's kissed it goodbye. What are they going to do in the future? Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of full-time walleye pros that are scratching their head, wondering what's going to be in the future. Unlike bass fishing, which has 2 complete circuits and even a PAA circuit to augment everything, the walleye world is no longer. It's just a hodgepodge of small one-time circuits, governor's circuits. That's about it. There is talk of a Cabela's payoff circuit with three events with some sort of championship in the offing, but that's not going to do anything for the world. Anyway, as a whole, that's where it's at. That's the state of the state. Al and I, Eldiner, myself, and my son James we're writing a open letter to the fishing world, the industry, about the state of competitive walleye fishing, which we will publish, and it will be first on our site or on Walleye's First website. You can see it on Walleye First website or LinderMedia.com's website, and it should show up in some of the magazines as well. But with the finale of this tournament, the only magazine, which is called Walleye, appropriately enough, that was being published by the FLW organization is going to cease publication. Right now, there is not a single periodical dedicated to walleye. So, anyway, that's where it's at. We shot the last one. My Linder Media, our production company, shot the last one. They are in the process of editing it. It was a very, very interesting tournament. We're going to have a lot to say about some of the things that happened there. We'd have to explain the intricacies and the details of why, where, and when, but this will do. So with that, until later, folks, see you later, Alex.
It's pouring rain. It's real dark outside. Your heart starts beating really, really fast. You've never done anything so hard in your life. This is boot camp. This is the real thing now. It's such extreme pain, you don't understand how you can finish. I began to feel that there was no way I was ever going to have my title, U.S. Marine. It takes special inner strength, courage, and desire to do this. I was just thinking, I'm so close. I'm so close. And when I finished, I was like, I'm done. I did it. The moment I will never forget is when this drill instructor that I admire so much comes up to me straight in front of me, put her arm on my shoulder and said, "Good morning, Marine."
PFC Summer Volkman became a Marine. Can you? Visit Marines.com or call 1-800-MARINES. The few, the proud, the Marines.
So you really like him, huh?
Yeah. We just hang out and just everything we do just seems like so much fun.
Uh-huh. So what was it you were doing just for fun?
Mom, Dad, if you love us, you'll ask us the important questions. Because if you don't, who will?
First we went to
A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Autumn hiking coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Would you like to spend less time on the couch and more time in the fresh air? Would you like your kids to stare at a bobber instead of the TV? Would you gladly trade in your microwave for a Dutch oven? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Hiking is a great way to enjoy fall. Take lots of water. If the day is warm, you'll need at least 1 or 2 liters. If the day is cool, water is still important, but be sure to take along a thermos filled with a hot drink. Food you take hiking will help boost your energy level and keep you from tiring easily. Even though the sun is not as ferocious in autumn, you can still become sunburned if you're not adequately protected. Take rain gear in your backpack and layer your clothing so you can adjust to changing temperatures throughout the day. In wooded areas, it can begin to get dark as early as 5 p.m. in late autumn. Start your hike early in the morning to avoid being caught in the woods after dark. Now, always pack a flashlight. Even if you plan to be back before dark, you never know when an emergency might keep you in the woods longer than you expected. But before we go, a big salute and a thank you for all you do to all of you military men and women listening out there on the American Forces Radio Network. Until next time, I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Thanks a lot, Larry. Does that mean we're on the Armed Forces Radio Network as well, Lynn?
That'd be cool.
Well, we should ask Larry about that.
We should.
Larry, share the wealth. What's the matter with you? Folks, we have a man on who I have often wanted to interview, and I don't know why Lynn hasn't gotten him until right now, but I'm going to have a talk with her after the program. Friend Roumbanis was born and raised in California and spent his youth in the California Delta, fishing the California Delta and nearby local reservoirs. As kids, he and his brother learned to fish mostly from watching their angling heroes of Bass and ESPN TV on tournament shows like Denny Brower, Rick Clunn, and all the greats. They love to watch Bill Dance, Hank Parker, Fish Fishburne. Say that 5 times fast. Fish Fishburne.
I don't think I can say it once.
and every other TV show that had anything to do with fishing. At an early age, Fred's grandpa gave him his first rod and reel, a Zebco 33 spin cast combo. The interesting fact is that Fred's future father-in-law was an engineer at Zebco at the time and designed that reel. Wow. That's quite a story. Fred, first of all, you're one of the all-time greats. Welcome to the show. Did you ever think you'd be one of the all-time greats?
No, I still don't really consider myself one, but I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
Fred, I don't know how it is that we haven't crossed paths yet. I'm going to talk to Lynn about that. You're from California, and so many bass fishermen are from California now. That never used to be the case. Why do you think that is?
Well, most of the national tours are more East Coast and centrally located.
Yeah.
And I think just California, it's almost like, at least Northern California, where I'm from, it's almost driving through 2 states just to get out of California, because you got to go down pretty much to the bottom or take the Nevada route up north. But right. I mean, it's just it's almost just kind of out there on its own. But we have some of the greatest bass fishing in the world, and a lot of it is due to stocking trout. A lot of the lakes and reservoirs that we have out there, the bass just get so big because they've got this trout that they feed on a weekly basis when they plant them for the Fish and Game plant them for local reservoirs for people to catch. But those bass, it's a soft, easy protein for them, and they just grow to enormous size.
It's true. It's not just that they're Florida strain bass. It's that they have easy, high-protein food that gets dumped into the lakes once every few weeks, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because, I did grow up. I actually never stepped foot on a bass boat until I was about 18 years old. And so the bulk of my fishing growing up was riding my BMX bike with a fishing rod in my hand down to the Lafayette Reservoir in the East Bay of San Francisco Bay. And, I'd watch and learn the behavior of the bass. I wouldn't go out there and catch a fish every time I went. That'd be like 1 bass a week. But you'd watch when they would stock those trout, how those fish would really react. They would get conditioned. They would actually know when that stocking truck was driving across the dam. They could feel the vibration. They would come up to the surface, and you could stand up on the dam and watch these huge shadows just raise, waiting for them to get fed, basically. So that's when we learned to throw swim bait.
If
those fish, in those trout.
If you ever had fish in an aquarium, you'd know that's absolutely true. I mean, I used to have fish, and they would know when I came in the driveway. You know, my mother would say, "Hey, that fish always turns sideways when you drive into the driveway," and it's true. You know, they could feel the vibrations through the ground. I mean, I don't know what they feel, but they feel something. Then they know they're going to get fed. Fred, we're going to take a break in a few minutes here, but before we do, I want to ask you, you won the tournament at Lake Neely Henry. Did anybody help you with that tournament?
Well, I mean, I worked really tight with Gerald Brown. He's a great friend of mine, and it really wasn't known, but he actually sponsored me in the PAAs this season. And,
really?
He did a lot of research on Neely Henry. I had never been there before. And most of his research led on up the river, and that's what we did the first day of practice. Where there wasn't any grass, it was mostly laydowns, and it was a timing thing with the generation of the water. And that just, without any experience on that lake, just wasn't my gig. And, when we first launched the boat, I noticed shoreline grass, the same kind of grass we have here in Oklahoma.
Right.
And it's called water willow. Well, I've gotten real good at fishing it over the last 5 years.
Fred, let's put a bookmark in there. We'll take a break and then we'll come back. You can tell us all about the water willow, all right?
Okay,
all right.
Sounds good.
All right, folks, we'll be right back after this with Fred Roumbanis.
Papa was a fishing man. Papa was a fishing man. He loved his cars and his steel.
Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care. Because teens don't need perfection, they need you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're so annoying.
You're so annoying.
Stop copying me.
Stop copying me.
Mom, tell her to stop copying me.
Mom, tell her to stop talking to me.
Kids will spend 10 minutes copying everything their sibling says.
You're such a
You're
doofus.
such a doofus.
How about 2 minutes to brush their teeth? Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Mom!
A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hold on to that, and that's a good one since 1984. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
Have you ever had a run-in with a game warden while you were fishing? Well, my guest today did, and it's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. In just a moment, country music great Merle Haggard will tell you what I mean. But first, this message.
Your attention, please.
Is almost over. Smart baits are on their way. Smart baits, color that changes with the temperature of the water. Color. The fishing world will never be the same. Get a sneak peek now at smartbaits.net. Color changes everything. Smart baits, coming soon.
I'd like to settle down, but they won't let me. A fugitive must be a rolling stone.
While visiting with country music great Merle Haggard, I asked Merle, have any funny things ever happened to you while fishing?
Fuzzy Owen and I had been fishing all night on the Colorado River about 1967. And it come daylight, and I began to get sleepy about 8 o'clock in the morning. And we had an old 21-foot Glastron boat we was fishing out of it. Back before bass boats were really, had really come in strong. And we was fishing out of this old Glastron, and it had bunks up in the front about the old 21-footer. You might remember that style boat.
Mm-hmm. I sure do.
And I climbed up in there and laid down, and I left my pole out. I didn't even say anything to Fuzzy. I don't have to talk much. And there's a game warden eased around. Some toolies there was fishing. He's kind of eased around upon Fuzzy before he knew it. And I'd laid down, and I'm hearing the two voices, the conversations outside. And I hear the and he said, hey, good morning there. He said, I'm going to have to write you up for fishing with 2 poles.
Oh no! Fishing with 2 poles? What's Fuzzy Owens going to do? Well, I'll give you a hint. When we get together again next time, Merle Haggard will tell you how his friend, Fuzzy Owens, got out of getting a ticket for fishing with 2 poles. A story that you're going to love to hear. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, tight lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by Huntmate, the best hunting app for your iPhone. By UFP, America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers. And by Smart Baits, color changes everything.
Holiday cheer is near. Get the perfect gift for your favorite fisherman online at tightlinesradio.com.
Wow, an actual cliffhanger. Sammy Lee left us at the edge of the cliff, so everybody's going to have to tune in next time to hear the rest of that story. You know, it's like, I didn't know that we did that.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. I'm going to have to talk to Sammy Lee about that. Although he is the MC for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, so I'm not sure I'm going to give him a real stern warning. We're here with Fred Roumbanis, and let me give you a little bit of Fred's stats. He has fished 100 tournaments since 1999 in BASS, and since then he has had 2 first-place finishes, and he's been in the Bassmaster Classic 3 times, and he's won darn near close to $1 million in his career. So that's not too shabby. And he is here with us today. And when we rudely interrupted him, he was in the middle of a story about Neely Henry Lake. Fred, continue, please.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, you know, it was just it was a situation where, you know, without a bunch of knowledge of the lake and having a guy that you're working with where we're running around and tag team in the water, that I saw that water willow grass, and being that the water temperature was in the high 90s and it was real stagnant weather and they weren't pulling a lot of water,
yeah,
the fish were just dead still. They didn't want to use a lot of energy to chase baits. And, you know, I went, there's 2 things you can do that time of the year when the water gets hot like that. One is go down the bank and throw a frog or a swim jig. I consider those 2 kind of the same technique. You're basically covering a lot of water, your troll motor's on high, and you're just going. The problem with that is you might get 1 or 2 bites in an area where you passed up 100 fish.
Right.
And just because they don't want to chase it, but you're going to get the better bites. So I figured if I was to do that, and he's a little bit slower, you know, Gerald Brown fishes a little bit slower than I do and more methodically, if he stuck with the flipping, together we would combine a good program. We had about a day and a half of practice left before we just settled into that. And sure enough, he started getting bit flipping right away, and I frogged for about 200 yards and didn't get a bite. So I picked up my flipping stick and got real comfortable real quick. And that was, you know, how we worked together on that event. But ultimately, you know, I was doing something a little different than he was the way I was flipping, and I think that's what won the tournament for me. But and then as the final day came in, we had a cold front come through. We had some cloud cover, and that water temperature dropped, and that's when I knew to pick up the frog in the morning. First thing, I caught a 4 and a 3 right off the bat. And I think that's what won it for me. But, you know, it was just that making that adjustment the final day definitely helped land those 2 better quality fish.
So what was that adjustment? You flipped and didn't do the frog, but what was it about your flipping that was different from what your friend was doing?
Well, I know he was pegging his weight and I didn't peg it. And the difference between doing that is when you flip it in there and you peg it, the bait chases the bait. I mean, the bait chases the weight down, so it goes down a lot faster. When you don't peg it, the bait will kind of have a slower fall. And then you can sit there and shake the slack, and the bait kind of wants to come back up, and it pulls back down to the weight. Right. So I was really just working it in one spot a lot longer, and not getting that fast reaction bite. I was making them come to me and eat it slowly.
So you would kind of yo-yo it through the weight, and was it a floating bait, or was it a...
No, it was a reaction innovation sweet beaver, but because of the profile, it tends to fall down slower than the weight. So it's kind of like you just get that extra little pop to the bait.
Right, right.
And it just works. Works really good in that water willow. So if you're ever around that stuff, try flipping it without pegging it. Most people think you need to peg it to get into that grass, but that grass is real sparse grass. And as long as you can land it in the holes in between. And the key really was, for me, was to drop my power poles down and take one area and just flip it really good. And then lift it up and kind of, whenever there was like a breeze or something, let the breeze take you down instead of your trolling motor. Because if you are constantly on and off on your trolling motor, it kind of interferes with their environment. You'll see that grass kind of take off, and the quality ones will leave the area real quick.
When were they taking the bait? Were they taking it on the fall or after you jiggled it a little bit?
No, I would sit there and have to work it and just know that there was something down there. You know, I'd flip it in there and really shake it.
Right.
And they would come and grab it. So it was definitely a lot slower than I like to fish, but during those kind of conditions, I knew that was the deal. So I think just having that confidence, you know, moving to Oklahoma, had I stayed in California and gone back and fished, I probably would have never won that tournament. But
really?
The fact that I moved to Oklahoma 5 years ago, and we have a lot of water well, I think that's the only kind of vegetation there really is in all the lakes around here. I really learned how to fish that, and it was real neat to be able to put something locally together that worked over there.
Now, why would you move to Oklahoma from California? Not that I'm making a judgment call, which I'm not, but, you know, a lot of people would move out of Oklahoma to California.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny, but there's a lot of rich history here in Oklahoma in bass fishing. You know, just in Bassmasters and everything else. But really why I moved here was because of my wife's family. Julie, her family is from here, and it's just nice. We have 2 kids now, but you know, growing up, or, you know, being able to raise a family and having her when I'm on the road closer to her family, I thought was probably the best choice. And on top of that, I do travel from coast to coast towing a boat, and it's kind of nice to be center of the country, so I don't have a 4-day drive at any point. You know, usually I can get anywhere in about a day and a half. So.
You're right. Plus, your wife is happy, and you know what? That's 100% of it right there.
Absolutely.
Because if
you
your
save
wife,
money, the fuel prices are the lowest, I think, of anywhere in the country. So
that's right. You moved away from the highest fuel prices to the lowest. And
exactly. Can you imagine? Oh man, I just don't know how I'd be able to do it going back and forth to California like I used to. It's crazy I even made it happen. But back then I didn't have responsibilities either. So
right. When did you get married?
We got married in 2007. Actually, during the Bassmaster Classic, I didn't qualify from 2006. So 2007 we got married that week. So now every classic that I'm either in or not in, we're celebrating our anniversary, which is kind of a neat deal.
That's a lazy man's way to do it. You'll never forget an anniversary then. Listen,
but I'm still kind of over that honeymoon. You know, our honeymoon was going down to Amistad, and actually brought her dad with us.
Right,
so
Fred,
during practice.
we got to take a break, and we'll come right back, all right?
All right, thanks.
All right.
It takes a whole lot of fishing to do a little bit of catching. It takes a whole lot of fishing to do a little bit of catching. Well, I remember what my grandpa used to say, fish hard, make it pay, it takes a whole lot of losing.
My name is Meera. Many families have come to America for a better life. I advocate for these families with United Way to make the community stronger. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
One problem all hunters encounter from time to time is wet boots. Crossing streams, walking through wet grass, hunting in snow. There are a lot of ways your boots can get wet, and you need to know how to dry them properly so they'll continue to provide top serviceability. I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Hunt Radio. Today, what to do and what not to do to dry your boots out when they get waterlogged. Stay with us. Wade will be right back. With the mission to promote, protect, and preserve hunting in the shooting sports, the National Shooting Sports Foundation wants to help you better enjoy your sports. Take a lesson from champion pistol shooter Doug Koenig. Fine-tune your shotgun skills with top instructor Gil Ash, or learn how to sight in your rifle in just 2 shots. You'll find all the information you need to shoot better at nssf.org/videos. Watch and learn with NSSF at nssf.org/videos. For a day at the range, it's hard to beat an accurate pistol and lots of .22 long rifle ammunition. Folks at Smith & Wesson couldn't agree more. And the new M&P 22 pistol fits the bill perfectly. The M&P 22 combines the look, feel, and familiar operating features of the trusted M&P series of centerfire pistols. The M&P 22 is perfect for training or simple shooting enjoyment. To learn more about this new M&P rimfire pistol, visit www.smith-wesson.com.
This is Wired to Hunt Radio.
Boots that get wet are uncomfortable and can cause blisters. This is why it's important to keep your boots dry or to dry wet boots thoroughly when you get out of the field. Here's Darren Anderson, boot product manager for Cabela's, with some good advice on this important camp chore.
Boot dryers are by far the easiest to use. Generally, they just plug into the wall and you put the boots on them and it helps dry them. But when you're out in the field, sometimes you don't have that luxury of having a boot dryer. Dry newspaper, when you're at camp or at the tent, you can just put dry newspaper in there. Just leaving the tongue wide open helps. Certainly don't want to put them next to the fire. A high heat will actually cause the glues inside the boot to dry out, crack, and sometimes you'll have failure just on the cementing part of it. It also will dry out the leather, so you'll have future failure there as well.
Also, Darren added that you shouldn't allow mud to dry on leather boots, as this will draw out tanning oils and cause cracking. Also, you need to periodically apply a good leather treatment product to leather boots to keep the leather supple and to keep the pores filled so they'll repel water. So remember these tips and apply them, and you'll get longer life and better service from your boots. And that's today's Wired to Hunt Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening. Get outside.
Thanks, Wade, and I appreciate that. And we have with us Fred Roumbanis, who is one of the all-time greats, as far as I'm concerned, on the bass fishing circuit today. And we were right in the middle of a conversation when we were interrupted about how he sleaze his wife into believing that he remembers the anniversary of his wedding every time. So, Fred, how did you do that again?
Yeah, we got married during the Bassmaster Classic in 2007, so it makes it easy when I know it's anniversary time during the Classic. One day I hope to give her the ultimate anniversary present, and that's win the Classic. But until then, it's easy to remember.
That's right. Until you son of a gun, you figured it out. You just figured it out. Listen, yeah. There's so much I want to talk to you about, and we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left. So you once said of the PAA tournaments, it's pretty amazing to win a tournament with the PAA. It's a unique tournament because you have a combination of elite pros, FLW Tour pros, and local heroes who really know the lake. Are there any pros that you particularly enjoyed fishing against during the PAA tournament?
It's a really neat deal, absolutely, because here's the thing about the PAA. And to answer your question, yeah, I mean, all of them. I love fishing against all of them. They're all great people. It's funny when you go to these tournaments, especially on the elite side, because that's what I've been fishing the last few years. We become family, and then when we go show up at a PA tournament, the elite guys kind of group together, and the FLW guys kind of group together, and then the local guys all group together. But the neat thing about the PA is it's an event that's open to the general public. If a guy wants to try their skills against the best of the best, fish the PAA. Fish the PAA tour, because you get a taste of both tours, and you can really see how you stand against the competition. And at that point, you can decide if this is really what you want to do. But for me, it was actually a great opportunity because I used to fish FLW, so I obviously got to see some of my fishing competitors from the past, right. And then some of the local guys that I'd like to get to know better and learn how local tricks work on these places, and I got to talk to them after the event, so I learned some stuff if I ever go back. And then, against the elite guys. So it's awesome. And here's the crazy thing. Next season, and I fished some of the FLW Opens. I fished 3. I couldn't fish all 4 due to a conflict with an elite tournament. Yep. I actually qualified to the FLW Tour through the FLW Opens by finishing 50th place, 3 out of 4 tournaments. So next season, I'm going to start the year off fishing the FLW Tour, the Elite Tour, and the PA Tour. So I'm going to be doing all 3 major levels of competition.
And you'll be divorced before you know it.
Well, the good thing is summertime, they'll be with me for the 4-week span that pretty much tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament.
That's great.
But yeah, and being in Oklahoma, I can fly back, or I'm going to try to just be gone minimal, which is really hard to do. But Bass at one point was talking about cutting the practice days down to 2. I hope they do that, because that would give me 1 extra day.
That'd be great.
Spend with the family.
You don't have a lot of extra days, Fred.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough season, but I also think it's also an opportunity. It's very rare that you get the opportunity to fish all 3 major tours.
That's true. Listen, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to talk about your lures for just two minutes. Tell me, first of all, when did you start designing lures?
It's just growing up as a kid, fishing these reservoirs and watching all these TV shows and just learning how each bait properly operates and going out and fishing until you catch fish. You really learn the science that went involved into making these lures and what drives those fish to bite. And then I just kind of put my favorite ways of fishing and the styles of the baits that are out there and just kind of tinkered with them to the point where I was like, man, they just need to come out with this. And I went to IMA with a wake bait idea, and it's been one of my favorite baits because you can actually tinker with that bait. It's called the Rumba, made by IMA Lures, and you can tinker with it, and you can add a prop to the back of it, or you can add a hitchhiker and put a worm on the back, make it look like a mouse. And it's just a real neat bait because there's so many things you can do to it. It's just a real slow topwater bait that can be utilized for several different reasons. And then, doing that, then you start learning, obviously about the rods and action. So I've got 5 signature rods with I-rods now. And I've got signature baits with Pepper Custom Baits, a vibrating jig and a swim jig. And I came out with a color of a frog a few years back. Did it for snag proof, and really just did it for my own benefit. And it turned out to be in 2008, it had actually won more money than any other lure.
Really?
The FLW Force Wood Cup.
What color frog was that?
Fred.
The Fred
frog by Snag Proof.
Fred the
It's
frog.
The #1 selling color to this day.
What color is that, if I may ask?
It's basically what I was doing is, a lot of times you're throwing a frog and people think you're trying to mimic an amphibian.
Right.
Well, I was really trying to mimic a bluegill.
Right.
And the way you walk it on the surface looks like an injured bluegill on the surface. So what I did was I made the colors mimic a male bluegill.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. We'll have to pick this up when we have you back again. Lynn, you have to book Fred again because this went too darn fast. Fred, thank you for being with us, and good luck on the tour and good luck with your wife, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, you take care. Fred, one of the greats on the trail these days.
Medicines save millions of lives each year, but drug interactions can cause problems. I'm pharmacist Karen Reed, and I've got some tips that will help keep you safe. Ask your pharmacist the right questions. Should I expect any side effects? Is there any particular time of day I need to take this? Should I take it with food? This has been a message from the American Pharmacists Association.